the Prime Minister went into the Parliament and made reference to herself in glowing terms by using a specific word which I'm not going to repeat.
So I made my first video pertaining to this and I removed it because I was like, you know what, the Prime Minister maybe just can't take she's human too. But then here comes this bullshit. So let me start back with the first photo, yeah? So for African Emancipation Day, the biggest emancipation celebration, which would be the Emancipation Village, our Prime Minister decides to skip for whatever reason. Now I'm one that don't mix and meddle at all in the political side of Trinidad and Tobago, the segregation between Indo-Trinis and Afro-Trinis, PNM and UNC, and the fact that it have no middle and them don't want to hear. Once your hair is not straight, you are automatically deemed to be a PNM supporter. If you are Indian, you are automatically a UNC. That is bullshit. But anyway, that can't live around me. Me being racist could never. Right? But at this point, I'm feeling like people spitting in my face and we thinking it's sprinklers with green mash. Because this is one thing, but to have a Indo-Trini scout leader, scout master, however you address them properly, have kids clean the graves of Sir Lamont family is freaking crazy. Especially have them doing that on Emancipation Day. So on the day that we are dedicating and have dedicated to the African enslaved laborers and the freedom and all these good things, we have a leader carrying his troops to clean the slave master and his family graves. Now at this point, all in a slapping we in our faces, all hitting we some hard bella, bang, 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 because what if? Is it that we don't know history or we refuse to read up and learn the history, or we just find that, anything goes, like whatever? Because before this, I don't know if you all could remember, they had a, let me see if I can get that flyer, hold on. Found it. You all remember this? If social media didn't make an uproar on this would have gone past so silently. The High Commission of India decided, hey, let's host an open house for the Indian community. Let me keep that in mind so you know who wasn't invited. Anyway, on the African Emancipation Day holiday. And I don't want to hear nothing about you didn't know and you didn't know. Your advisories to the country supposed to let you know in advance, hey, that is a bad date to put your open house, because that is our country's Emancipation Day. At this point, we are getting slapped in the face. I tell all some hard bella, some ring bang we getting. Cause what the hell?
The Kamla Persad was a no-show at the Emancipation Village yesterday, and the crowd lost it. The audience erupted in boos and cheers when the organizers announced she was not coming. Kamla hit back by saying she spent the holiday with family and never confirmed her attendance. She also blames the uproar on opposition supporters.
Morning in some news today, August 2nd, 2026, government MPs walk out of the official Emancipation Day celebrations at the Queen's Park Savannah after being subjected to jeers from sections of the crowd. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Persad, who didn't attend the event, says she never committed to being there and spend the day with the family instead. Check out this report from Vanessa Cotton of TV6 News.
The official Emancipation Day celebrations at the Queen's Park Savannah took an unexpected turn on Saturday as government members of parliament exited the event shortly after proceedings got underway. The live broadcast of the afternoon celebrations on TTT also ended abruptly. The developments followed reports that some government representatives were subjected to heckling from sections of the audience. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Kamla Persad, who was absent from the celebrations, told CCN TV6 she had never committed to attending the event. The Prime Minister says, quote, "I never committed to attending that event. I attended two African emancipation events on Thursday. I am spending the day with my family. I'm sorry that those persons who were eagerly waiting to insult and curse me were disappointed. They should not worry. There will always be another event where they may have the opportunity to hurl curses and insults at me. I attended two wonderful emancipation events on Thursday in Port of Spain and San Fernando. Those were beautiful events organized by the Office of the Prime Minister and another by Minister Benjamin. End quote. The Prime Minister also responded to criticisms of UTT's Uhuru Emancipation event, which highlighted what it described as the shared struggles, resilience, and triumphs of African slavery and Indian indentureship.
Guys, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamla Persad, makes me so damn sick to my core, because when it was Emancipation Day on August the 1st, when everyone was celebrating in Port of Spain, the capital of Trinidad and Tobago, she didn't even attend any of the events. And I think this is so sickening, when as much as she's a brown-skinned woman, she still represents the entire people of the country and should have gone. And she was doing other things. And also, she has said so much derogatory things about black people within the country, and the opposition parties have also accused her of trying to cause more separation between the brown people and black people in the country and having more of a divide. And she's also said some derogatory stuff about her own people. I honestly don't understand how this woman is still in power in 2026, and she is basically the Donald Trump of the Caribbean. But I want to hear all your thoughts in the comment section down below about this.
Happy Emancipation Day, Trinidad and Tobago. And today, for our African brothers and sisters, marks the end of slavery and pays tribute to the strength and resilience fought against the slavery system. My little message today, guys: we live in a diverse country, meaning a place with mixed people from different races, ethnicities, religions, and cultures. Just living together. And I think it's such a beautiful thing. However, for some reason, there is just so much hate and division in the country, which for a small country is unacceptable. I mean, racism would always exist throughout the world, but for a country like ours, let's do what we could do to cut it down. Because I just love that we live in a diverse place, and we need to not allow these higher authorities or the politicians to create so much hate and have the people, just fighting against each other. It's not a nice thing, and we need to just be wise and understand that, hey, our population is mainly East Indians, Africans. There's some, they have the Syrians, the Chinese, the Spanish as well. But we need to learn to live together. Two are the most important words. We need to have the ability to adapt, adjust and adapt to conditions. We share a place, a country with different people. And you might meet people from other cultures that you might not agree with certain things or understand as well, but you can't do anything about it. The best thing you could do as a human being is learn to live good with everybody. That is something I adapt from growing up, and I believe it is instilled in me and it's in my heart, and I will always be like that. So I could just urge everyone, that is my little message. Happy Emancipation Day. I hope you all have a good one. Out. Remember, we are all people sharing one beautiful home.
I had the absolute pleasure of attending emancipation celebrations in my own constituency. So I'd like to start off by congratulating Ms. Camille Ashe Joseph and her team for putting on what was a spectacular show. Now, there are some national observances that are so very solemn that we should all celebrate them as citizens of our twin island state in a spirit of unity. And Emancipation Day is one such celebration. Emancipation Day is a celebration that ought not to be politicized. Before I go further, to mention something very special, something very beautiful that I observed at the Sangre Grande Emancipation celebration, let me segue into something that cannot be left unaddressed. What happened to my colleague and friend Michelle Benjamin at the Emancipation Day event in downtown Port-of-Spain and repeated at the Queen's Park Savannah should be condemned in the strongest possible terms. Seeing elderly, matronly women sink to such abysmal levels to disrespect an office holder in the person of the Minister of Culture and a high office holder in the person of the Honorable Prime Minister is a new low even by PNM standards. We cannot as a nation complain about the behavior of our young people when as elders we ourselves set a bad example, and then act surprised when school-age children engage in violence in schools and in public spaces, and when they openly disrespect institutions of law and order. The fact that no senior member of the opposition bar one has condemned these vile attacks speaks volumes and corroborates what we know. The fact that a pettifogger like Marvin Gonzalez can use his social media platform to repeat it and thereby endorse it also speaks volumes. As I promised, I would return to that beautiful thing I observed in my own constituency this weekend, and it's this. Quite a few children who took part in the African dances and other performances, they had names like Indarsing and Sunarain. They were not mere observers. They took part in what is a national celebration. It's no different to when I saw children of African descent taking part in Maha Shivrati and other such observances in Sangre Grande. So the message is clear. The enlightened and forward-thinking among us are all celebrating each other, celebrating our differences and our uniqueness. So those of you who are bent on division, who are bent on exclusivity as opposed to inclusivity, you are fast becoming irrelevant and would soon be relegated to a footnote in our history. So let me end by expressing my love and support to my friend Michelle Benjamin, Minister of Culture, and to give big respect to our Honorable Prime Minister. Peace and love.
Happening around Emancipation Day in Trinidad and Tobago, it had me remembering the history and the politics of the countries that I am personally connected to. And one thing is always standing out is whenever politics start to try to divide people and turn the nation against each other, and when people become enemies rather than neighbors, everybody losing. Because in the unity of the people lies the strength of a nation. And there's one thing I always loved about Trinidad and Tobago. Your national motto is, together we aspire, together we achieve. And even all your anthem reminds everybody, here every creed and race finds their equal space. And those are not just pretty words written down somewhere. Those are core values that need to be protected. And I personally love to focus on things what brings people together rather than what tears them apart. Because I highly believe whatever you put your focus on and your energy, that one expands and grows. So therefore, let's focus on the good things. My question to you personally is, what do you love the most about Trinidad and Tobago people? Because let me tell you what I think about Trinidad and Tobago people. I personally met the most generous, funny, and loving people in Trinidad and Tobago. No matter the race, I was always welcomed with open arms in their home. They make me feel like home. They make me feel like family, like I belonged. And that is a rare thing, you know. That itself needs to be protected, because this gift, a lot of countries lost already, while focusing on individualism and material gains, you know, but it still exists in Trinidad and Tobago, which is very special, and I hope all you never lose it. And that is only through unity. My personal thank you for every shared meal, for every warm hug, for every heartful laugh, for every beautiful line. I'm so grateful beyond words. You see me spreading this love to Trinidad and Tobago and their people each and every day. Once again, let me ask you, what is your favorite about Trinidad and Tobago people? Let me know in your comments.
We need to mind our own business, not just today. If today means anything to us coming together, let us find that emancipation spirit every day to affirm who we are as African people, our beauty, our history, all that we have done, you know, that our children do not know, the contribution that we have made globally. Trinidad and Tobago is the first independent country to declare Emancipation Day a holiday. You know, that is a big, big thing. We have many, many firsts, and we don't know what we have done. So, for me, rituals like these are supposed to strengthen us, to give us the will to fight. Ancestors, we venerate you. Ancestors, you are part of our past who must be in our presence. You must be in our presence. As we venerate you, guide us, visit us in dreams and visions. And when you visit us, let us recognize you. Let us listen to you, the messages. Let us allow you to guide us. Let us make you proud. And today, those of you who have gone, those of you who gave your lives for this Emancipation Day, let us bring a smile to your face by our little ritual here today. We venerate you, we love you. We are sorry for the times when we do not listen to you, when you communicate with us. Let us open ourselves today to communicate with our ancestors, to receive their wisdom, to understand their pain.
Doubles and coffee. People across Trinidad and Tobago, social media asking, but how come every time the government changes?
Are you saying we are at the mercy of the US?
We are not at the mercy of anyone except the good Lord. We are not at the mercy of anyone except the good Lord. And the other ones I'm at the mercy of is the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And I will do what I think best, of course, with the advice of the rest of my cabinet and other stakeholders. So we are not at the mercy. We can say no, we can say yes, but we are operating within the law. I don't know why there was such a big noise, because a few people were here from the U.S. military in Tobago with the radar. You know, they're paying $3 million a day for that radar. Not us. They are paying that. Therefore, they kept some of their military personnel there to ensure that the radar would be safe, it would be able to continue working, it would not be sabotaged or any such.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm holding a pen that Donald Trump used to sign the paperwork. Oh my God, he gave me a pen. That's how she looked. Kamla Persad, the Trinidadian Prime Minister. That's how she looked. I've been trying to tell you, these people are bootlickers. You dig what I'm saying? Look at what Trump did and the MAGA. Look what they did. They invited the nations from the Caribbean that they like. You dig what I'm saying? People who's going along with their narrative, doing what they want to do. The Trinidadian Prime Minister, Kamla Persad, I've been talking about this lady. She's the #1 candidate. She helped them to set up that satellite down there in Trinidad. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at this lady at the summit, and I'm like, yo, is she seriously for real? The lady held the pen. Trump must have signed some shit and gave them each a pen. Like, here, peasants. Yo, then she stand there looking at the damn pen.
Not race Dr. Keith Rowley, You have no moral authority to lecture Prime Minister Kamla Persad on race, an editorial by Professor Wall Street. Dr. Keith Rowley has taken to Facebook to accuse Prime Minister Kamla Persad of endangering the social and racial stability of this country, of being out of control, and in his most theatrical flourish, of being a modern Marie Antoinette who took bread out of the mouths of tens of thousands. It is a remarkable performance from a man who governed this country for a full decade and in that time did more damage to the economic well-being of Black Trinidadians than any leader in living memory. Before Keith Rowley lectures anyone on race, he owes his own people an accounting. Over 10 years, the descendants of the enslaved in his party's own strongholds grew poorer, not richer. His grandest promises to them evaporated, and their communities decayed into the most dilapidated in the nation. A man with that record has forfeited every right to pose as the guardian of racial justice. Here are 10 reasons why Keith Rowley should retire quietly to his rocks and leave the lecturing to others. 1. Black poverty exploded on his watch. Under the Kamla Persad-Bissessor-led People's Partnership from 2010 to 2015, the share of Black people living below the poverty line stood approximately around 17.3%. By the end of the PNM's tenure in 2025, that figure had ballooned to 26.3%, an increase of roughly 52%. Read that again. Black poverty grew by half under a prime minister who now styles himself the defender of Black people. He does not mention this in his Facebook sermons. It is the single most damning fact of his decade, and his silence on it speaks louder than any post. 2. Most of the people he impoverished were his own supporters. The communities that suffered that surge in poverty were overwhelmingly PNM strongholds, the loyal Black base that voted for Rowley election after election. He did not merely preside over Black decline in the abstract. He presided over the decline of the very people who trusted him most. To then accuse Kamla of taking bread out of the mouths of the poor is projection of the highest order. He should look in the mirror before he reaches for Marie Antoinette. 3. His make the rich richer doctrine told you exactly whose side he was on. Rowley publicly declared he had no problem making the rich richer so they could create opportunities for the poor. A decade later, we can measure that theory against reality. The rich, including his well-known Syrian financiers, did fine. The poor Black communities at the bottom of the socio-economic ladder stayed at the bottom. Trickle-down was not an accident of his government, it was its stated philosophy. And the trickle never reached Laventille. 4. He promised Laventille and environs $100 million and delivered a fraction of the hope. Rowley promised the Black population of Laventille and its environs $100 million for infrastructure and economic development. That money never materialized as promised. He asked those communities for their loyalty and their votes and gave them a headline figure that dissolved into nothing. What is his excuse for that broken promise to the very people he now claims to protect? Until he answers, his concern for Black people is theater. 5. He cannot name a single socio-economic indicator where Black Trinidadians ranked among the top 3. Here is a challenge Rowley cannot meet. During his 10-year reign, name one socioeconomic statistic: income, employment, home ownership, educational advancement, wealth, on which Black Trinidadians ranked in the top 3 of this country's groups. There isn't one to boast of. A leader genuinely devoted to his people's advancement leaves behind measurable progress. Rowley leaves behind a challenge he cannot answer and a record he would rather nobody examined. 6. Under him, PNM strongholds became the most dilapidated constituencies in the land. Drive-through Laventille, Morvant, and the other loyal PNM heartlands after 10 years of PNM government. And you see the truth his rhetoric hides: crumbling infrastructure, neglected communities, and abandoned promise. These are the places that never wavered in their support for him, and they were rewarded with dilapidation. A man who let his own base rot has no standing to lecture anyone about caring for a people. 7. He called himself the blackest man in Trinidad and Tobago, then governed as if it meant nothing. Rowley was fond of declaring he could be the blackest man in Trinidad and Tobago. Identity, though, is not policy. Proclaiming your blackness while black poverty climbs by half on your watch is not leadership, it is branding. He wore his heritage as a slogan, while the material conditions of the people who share it deteriorated. That is the opposite of the racial solidarity he now pretends to champion. 8. He is the author, not the opponent, of racial grievance politics. This is a man with a long, documented history of racially and personally inflammatory rhetoric from the nation's highest office. For him to now cast himself as the sober guardian of racial stability, alarmed by division, is breathtaking. Rowley did not just tolerate racial friction in our politics. Over the years, he actively stoked it. The arsonist does not get to lecture the fire brigade. 9. His Marie Antoinette theatrics insult the very people he failed. Comparing Kamla to Marie Antoinette while invoking starving hordes is designed to sound like compassion for the poor, but the poor, black, disadvantaged communities he claims to speak for grew hungrier under him, not her. Weaponizing the imagery of starvation when your own decade produced the worst black poverty figures in the nation's history is not moral clarity. It is a cynical borrowing of other people's suffering to score a political point. 10. He mistakes retirement grievance for public service. Rowley had 10 years, the full power of the state, and the unwavering loyalty of the black communities he now claims to defend. He could have delivered economic emancipation and chose not to. Now out of office, he pours his energy into Facebook broadsides about race and stability rather than answering for the record he left behind. That is not the conduct of an elder statesman. It is the conduct of a man running from his own decade. In conclusion, so here is the plain truth. No one did more over the last 10 years to leave black Trinbagonians poorer, more neglected, and more taken for granted than Keith Rowley. And most of the affected were his own faithful supporters. Black poverty rose from around 17.3% to 26.3% on his watch, a roughly 52% jump. The $100 million promised to Laventille never came. His party's strongholds became the most dilapidated in the country, and he cannot name a single socio-economic indicator on which black people led. A man carrying that record does not get to appoint himself the protector of racial harmony and lecture Kamla Persad on race. Answer the questions first, Dr. Rowley. The poverty, the broken $100 million promise, the decayed strongholds, the missing statistics. Until you can, do the country a favor and enjoy your retirement doing what you were actually trained to do, studying rocks, not race.
Kamla Persad came into office. She was able to work miracles in 16 months. She was able to make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the mute speak. Take a look for yourself.
Lisa Richards Coles area. And this is what is happening here. The Kitty Valley Main Road again, another site that Ministry of Works is responsible for. Minister, you want to tell me that this is okay? You want to tell me that these videos and these complaints that we continue to make is political? Miss Jolene John are out here in my leopard tiger skin. Anything I could do to get some help. Road looks like at this time. This is what St. Lucian Road looks like at this time. And we continue to plead with the Ministry of Works. Show this one. Look at this. Look at this. We continue to plead with the Ministry of Works to do their part.
Flashback.
Spend the money keeping you alive. And there was not sufficient money to spend on road repairs. We made that call because as far as we're concerned, spending the money keeping you alive during the pandemic.
Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago, the richest country in the Caribbean and home to the world's largest natural deposit of asphalt. Yet, somehow, welcome also to Pothole Paradise, where after decades of patching and paving, 50% of all roads are now in fair to poor condition. Pothole Paradise, where we will examine the state of the roads and discuss the road forward.
The Prime Minister went into the Parliament and made reference to herself in glowing terms by using a specific word which I am not going to repeat. But at the same time, if somebody else says it, you're upset. But you say it in the Parliament. And I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. So as politicians, at the end of the day, we are leaders. We have to set the tone. And if you set the tone in a particular way, you call people eater food lawyers, you know, you're threatening people who you're going to cuff down and all of that as a Prime Minister. I mean, people are just fed up. People are just fed up, fed up, fed up. And people expect better of the Prime Minister. She has a responsibility not to go down the road of using derogatory statements in making reference to Trinidadians and Tobago.
I don't care what nobody say. Again, I don't care what nobody say. But the Honorable Mrs. Kamla Sushila Persad Bissessa is by far, in my opinion, the greatest Prime Minister, and I'm saying it again, the greatest Prime Minister Trinidad and Tobago has ever seen. Now I want you to just clock that motherfucking shit I just say, because I speak in bare facts. Clock it. Bare facts. And who don't like what I say, have yourself a Merry Christmas.
The Kamla Persad Bissessa is urging supporters to ignore race grifters and deranged commentators pushing a racist propaganda. Her comments come after a leaked audio recording surfaced online. Former Prime Minister Dr. Rowley fired back, accusing Kamla of hypocrisy, reminding her that she once called him an Oreo. Despite the criticism, Kamla told her supporters to focus on peace and not engage in those trying to sow division.
Questions, because they are speaking about the name Rambles again on radio.
All the people are coming out to talk, the Rambles and all of them on social media, they're coming out to tell you the world and say that Kamla Persad Bissessa is the worst Prime Minister Trinidad and Tobago ever had. I remind you who shot.
But what I'm trying to figure out is, where did the other David Welch go? You see, on the 19th of November 2024, you would have posted this video titled Late Night Ramble with 2 eyes. We all know what you were trying to do there. But in that video, you went on to say the following.
For those that like don't want me to say it and don't like what I'm gonna say, fire burn both PNM and UNC, fire burn them. And every single person in Trinidad and Tobago that thinks that this is progression for country, and because Kamla gave a hospital, so we go and vote for Kamla, who needs to demit office and probably just give it to somebody else within the party and allow innovation to take over. The both parties have nothing new. And I'll tell you this, and this is just a rant because this video probably has no purpose, but I'll tell you this. Ever since freaking Patrick Manning was alive, we had these two politicians that were telling Trinidad and Tobago that, hey, my politics better than yours. Aren't you tired of that?
How did you go from holding that point of view at the end of 2024 to just 4 months into 2025, flipping the script completely, and all of a sudden preaching to us that Kamla Persad is this god or whatever they consider her to be? How?
No going back, there's always going forward, but in Trinidad and Tobago, we want to go back to 2010.
And here you are, trying to convince all of us that Kamla Persad between 2010 and 2015 was something good. But there's more, because in another one of your videos, you had the following to say.
Your politicians win elections based off he say, she say, bacchanal. That is what you vote for in Trinidad and Tobago. You vote for bacchanal. Rowley say Kamla drunk. Kamla say Rowley is the blank black man. That style of governance must come to an end. 100%. Young people in Trinidad and Tobago cannot keep going out to the polls or cannot go out to the polls for the first time ever in history to vote for Keith, Rowley, Gary, Philip, bacchanal. It must be about country.
And yet, here the hell we are today in 2026. You are part of the same political party that does the exact same thing to the extreme. You all have no problem disrespecting grandmothers, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, dog, cat, sheep, anything on social media. Anything to clinch and grab onto power, you all have no issue with.
Around, and it's only in cults that you go around and you say, I will do anything that the leader says. Any problems? Let's stay quiet. Everybody stay quiet. Shh. That's a cult.
So again, I pose the question to you. What created this metamorphosis? What was it? Has to be money. At this point, don't come and say they're not paying you. I will be disrespected if you come and say they're not paying you. It has to be money. You cannot be this much of a sellout for free. I will actually respect you if you came and said, bro, here we on. They paid me 80,000 a month, I had to take it. Many people will take it in your position. Don't try to take the high road and come to me with, well, I'm doing it for love of country. Bullshit, you know that. This is because the UNC has less checks and balances. They will spend money and have blatant conflict of interest, and they don't care. The PNM is a bit more frugal. The PNM didn't pay most earlier. Let's say most earlier, talking about yellow. If the PNM did it, they would have been over on the PNM side. Most of all, who bitter right now, not bitter because of the economic standings of the country. You all care about the IDB and the IMF and the World Bank and all ratings. You all don't care about that. What you all cared about was getting a walk. And the first person to give all your walk, or they jump ship.
What's the facts in this? Yes, the UNC called out paid influencers.
Also, I don't mean to nitpick, but
kept by the United National Congress. Flights, direct flights coming to India
does not exist.
As well as to Ghana.
Also does not exist.
The 10% wage negotiations for the Public Service Association.
Should I even comment on that?
We finally got back laptops for Form 1 students.
The laptop program never truly went away. It just changed how it was handled.
We also saw a decrease at the pumps for the super gasoline by $1.
Then raised all the traffic fines by 1 and 2 and 300%.
The property tax that came and passed May 2025.
And then promptly hit us with landlord tax and said it's not property tax because apparently landlords don't own property.
They scrapped the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority.
And then to compensate for the loss of revenue, they carried up the price of almost everything else. Just saying, I can do this all day, but not the time. Also, just an FYI, stop using your cell phone while driving. Using a mobile device while driving a motor vehicle in Trinidad is still illegal. I know the UNC is a lawless party and the feel law don't apply to them, but I'm saying it now. Just an FYI.
Hello, beautiful and amazing people of Trinidad and Tobago. Guys, I don't know if you've been following up on this particular story about Emancipation Day. Because I can honestly tell you, many of your Trinidadians are talking about it. So, the Prime Minister is Her Excellency Kamla Persad was absent from the Emancipation Day celebration. And, many people actually found this to be extremely surprising. Like, they did not expect even a little bit that she was going to miss it because, Emancipation Day is a very important day in Trinidad and Tobago and the entire Caribbean island. So many people are surprised. Emancipation Day is not just like any other holiday. It's one of the most important national events in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean island. So this particular day is that day where we get to remember the end to slavery or the end of slavery. And on this particular day, we get to honor and celebrate the struggle of our ancestors. You know, we celebrate freedom, we celebrate resilience, and that's why each year during Emancipation Day, emotions are so high among the Caribbean people. So, of course, many Trinidadians felt extremely disappointed by the fact that the Prime Minister was not present to celebrate the day. You know, according to many Trinidadians, the Prime Minister should have attended because, the Prime Minister is the symbol of unity. Leaders should always stand with the people. That's all we can say about Emancipation Day, and such a very important day, because you see, such a particular day, it has a very, very deep national meaning. Some people actually didn't take it well, and they felt like it was really disrespectful to be absent during a very important day like that. But then you see, the opposition were like, yeah, she's sending the wrong message. Because you see, national unity matters a lot. So, in matters national unity, we expect the president, the country's leader, the prime minister to be present. And I can honestly tell you, not everyone agrees, right? And it's okay. We disagree to agree. Because as you listen to these particular videos, I noticed, others were asking people to actually slow down on this matter. Because according to them, nobody knows the full story. There could be another commitment that's very important to the country that she was attending to, right? But later on, she talked about spending time with family, which also makes sense because that's a personal reason. Anyway, I will say it's very unfair to really judge quickly. Trinidadians are saying that the leadership is about more than an event. Because if you look at across the entire island of Trinidad and Tobago, opinions are divided. Some angry, some disappointed. Some defending the Prime Minister, others want answers as to why it happened. So, the overall mood of everybody is that they are just asking questioning. For instance, some of the questions that they really want to understand is, how is it that national leaders always attend symbolic events, but when it comes to emancipation, there is an exemption, And I can tell you this is not political because it's all about the unity celebration, the end of slavery. Emancipation Day touches on national identity. It touches on respect for history. It touches on public expectation. And many Trinidadians, most of the time, they look to leaders during these particular important days or events. And just by them being present, it can send a very powerful message to the people. Their absence also can create a very strong reaction. If you look at the UNC supporters, they believe that, the overall leadership of the country, that is Prime Minister Kamla Persad, it should be judged fairly. But the PNM, they believe that public appearances is part of the job because what are you elected to do? To represent the people. I mean, anything that happens when you are a leader, it will be discussed deeply everywhere. It will be discussed in churches, in the market, in buses, in social media. But again, I'm glad that in every discussion, there are those that will agree, disagree also, and there are those that will want explanation. There are those that will urge others to actually be patient, and others will express frustrations. So it's clear that this particular issue has sparked a very strong emotion. But again, if you look at it, it has started an important discussion on what the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago expect from their leaders. And that shows how important symbolism is. I mean, I don't know, should leaders attend all national events, or should it be considered to be a duty? Because it really needs to be clarified, because people will keep jumping into conclusions, and the parliament needs to have a session on this and talk about it. On you who is watching today's video, do you think the Prime Minister should have attended the Emancipation Day, or do you believe that Trinidadians are overreacting? Kindly share your thoughts in the comments section below. I truly do appreciate your presence. I don't take it for granted. Probably I'll see you in the next video. Kindly subscribe.